Hi friends, welcome to another Science Experiments with Mr. Brandon. This week's topic, you all are learning about baptism. So we've got a couple experiments to try that you can do at home to remind yourself of baptism and the different elements or symbols that are involved when you're baptized. So for this first experiment, we're going to be reminding ourselves of the candle and the light that we received at baptism, as well as some symbolism about the water that we were baptized with. So for this first experiment, you're going to need a match or something to light your candle with, a little bit of food coloring, whatever color you want. I have blue here, a spoon, and something to pour the water in so we can mix those together. You'll need a plate that can hold the water. You'll need a candle that can stand on the plate, and you'll need just another glass. So the first step of the experiment is to just get some water from your sink. You don't need much. And then take your food coloring, whatever color you want. I chose blue because a lot of times we think of water as blue, like in the ocean, and add just a couple drops. And it's also just kind of cool to watch the food coloring dissolve in the water. So this doesn't do anything for the science part of the experiment, but it just helps us visualize what's going to happen in our experiment. So we got now a pretty blue color in our water. Once you mix that together, the next step is to take your water and pour it onto your plate very carefully. So this plate has a nice well on the bottom of it, which is going to help keep the water in. So be careful about what you choose for your plate. So we fill it up with the water. Okay, we've got nice blue water on our plate. We're done with that. The next step is to take your candle and put it on the center of the plate. So this candle, like the one we received at baptism, is going to represent for us the light of Christ. And you can actually, for the sake of this experiment, think of the water as all of us human beings. So right now, we're scattered around the plate. Some of us are closer to Christ, some of us are farther away. But when we light the candle and do the experiment, you'll see that all of us will be gathered in towards the light of Christ. So the next step of the experiment is to light the candle. And this is definitely when you're going to want to involve your mom or your dad or your grandparents or guardian to help you light the candle, to be very careful. So a lot of times in our house, when Miss Sarah and I light a candle, we sing a song that you probably remember from church. So we're going to light this candle and sing our song together to continue with the experiment. Ready, Miss Sarah? Christ be our light, shine in our hearts, shine through the darkness. Christ be our light, shine in your church, gather today. So now we have our candle lit, which remember is representing the light of Christ. And next is the important part of the experiment where we're actually going to put this cup on top of the candle. And then I want you to observe what's going to happen around the candle. So on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. You can see some of the water from the outsides of the plate being drawn in towards the candle, and you see some bubbles, and the candle just went out. So, scientifically, what's happening here is as the candle burns, it's consuming the oxygen inside of the glass, and it's causing the temperature inside of the glass to increase. When the temperature inside of the glass increases, it causes all those air molecules to move around super fast, and they escape out of the bottom of the glass, which is why you saw some of the bubbles. Now, when the candle goes out, then the air inside of the glass starts to slow down, and when it starts to slow down, then the pressure inside of the glass drops, and the decrease in pressure outside causes the water to come up inside to fill that void. So that's what's happened scientifically, but symbolically, remember, we're thinking of the light as the light of Christ. And when it's lit and when we covered it with the glass, it drew everything into itself, which is what happens with Jesus. Everything is drawn to the love of Jesus. And you received this candle at your baptism. You received the light of Christ inside of you. So now your mission is to go and to gather people into the love of Jesus by what you say and do with your life. So unlike the real Jesus, his flame never goes out. But in this experiment, once all the oxygen is consumed, the candle goes out. So just remember, the light of Christ never is consumed, but here the flame went out because we ran out of oxygen. So once we release the cup from the plate, the water spreads back out. So that's the first experiment, which uses a couple of the symbols from baptism, like the candle and the water. Now the next experiment we're going to try also involves water and also oil, which you are anointed with at your baptism. So the first step is to take a vase or a jar or a cup, it can really be anything, and fill it up with some water. So if you remember, water is a very important symbol in baptism because it reminds us of being washed clean by the love of Jesus. You can think of if you've ever done chalk on your sidewalk or on your driveway, and then it rains, it washes the chalk away. And so the love of Jesus Christ in baptism is poured into our hearts and washes us clean. So we're a lot like this jar, which is washed clean after our baptism. But then, after we're baptized and we die and rise with Christ in the water, we're anointed with oil. Now this is just plain vegetable oil, and the oil used at Mass was a special chrism oil, but it's the same idea. We don't want to forget that we are anointed with the oil because it does something special to us after we're baptized. So for the experiment, you're going to pour a little bit of oil into a cup, and then you're going to add some food coloring. You can use whatever colors you'd like. You just need a few drops of each. So I'm going to do the blue again. 1, 2, 3. Then let's try some green. 1, 2, 3. You can see it's a lot different from when we added the drops of food coloring to the water. Here it's not spreading out or dissolving in the oil because it's very different from water. So now we're going to add some red. 1, 2, 3. And lastly, we'll add a little bit of yellow. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now we're going to mix around the colors in the oil with our spoon. So you can mix it really, really fast. And again, the food coloring is not dissolving in the oil like it did in water, but it's creating a bunch of small little droplets of food coloring. So as you can see, we made a lot more droplets now. What we're going to do is we're going to pour the oil into the water. And it's going to remind us of what happens when we're anointed with oil at our baptism. So let's see what happens when we pour this oil with the food coloring into the water. So initially, all of the oil rises to the top of the water because oil and water don't like each other and they don't like to mix. You can see the food coloring droplets are still in the oil layer on top, but if you give it enough time, watch what happens. It's raining inside of the jar. It's raining different colors. We're getting kind of like a beautiful rainbow inside of the vase. This is because as the droplets that have our food coloring hit the surface of the water, they dissolve down into the water and form this really cool rainbow inside of the water layer. So this is kind of reminding us what happens when we're anointed with the oil. So first we're cleaned by the water, and then the oil symbolizes us receiving the Holy Spirit. And we receive the Holy Spirit, our lives are filled with color. So baptism washes us, we die and rise with Christ, and the Holy Spirit that God gives us as a gift fills our lives with color, and we're to be a light that draws everyone else into the love of Christ because we were baptized into Christ and because of his love for us. So I want you to try both of these experiments at home and remember the love of God that he had for you when you were baptized. And don't forget to share that love with all of your friends and family. So thanks again, and I'll see you next time.